talk about the power of tracking your success, of keeping track of and documenting your media opportunities. I'm Angel Tuccy, and they call me the media matchmaker because I can craft, I invite and introduce media opportunities to speakers who are looking for stages. So if you're looking for a guest, we typically have guests who are qualified to speak or be interviewed. And I've been playing media matchmaker for years. We have an incredible Facebook group that we play media matchmaker, and I host a media mastery boot camp a couple times a year. But I want to talk about how powerful it is when you keep track of your speaking opportunities. Look, I've got my media mastery tracker. We built this and put this together because we teach our clients to be featured and to have 2 interviews a week or to speak on 2 stages a week. 2 interviews a week or 2 stages a week, 2 media opportunities a week gives you exposure in front of 100 new audiences. This is a game changer. And if you want to create exposure, you want to leverage the power of publicity, you want to elevate your brand in the marketplace, you want to separate yourself from the competition, being an invited guest on other people, in front of other people's audiences, OPA, right? Other people's audiences, leveraging other people's audiences for exposure, to share your story, to create your impact. So often as business owners, we're out hustling and trying to bring in new leads, one person at a time. No more onesies, right? Onesies are for babies and baby businesses. We want to leverage the power of many, one to media, one to many, speaking in front of audiences. So being an invited guest on an interview, on a radio show, a podcast, a TV station, a TV show, right? Having your interview featured in an online magazine or an in-print magazine, being on a panel, right? A virtual panel or an in-person panel, speaking on stages and virtual summits. All of that, if it's somebody else's event, somebody else's platform, somebody else's audience, all you did was show up as the invited guest, that counts as other people's audiences. 2 of those a week creates an exposure in front of 100 special audiences, new audiences, right? And that's where we want to go to. And so we put together this media tracker, but honestly, you could track yourself with just creating a spreadsheet, right? A spreadsheet of all the media opportunities. That's how I started. And I didn't realize when I first started leveraging other people's audiences, how powerful 2 per week was going to be for my business and for my brand. But 2 a week, again, 2, that's 100 audiences, 100 fresh new audiences. If you're wondering, how do I fill my funnel? Where do I get more leads? How do I attract more people to my podcast, to my website, to my programs, to my services, to sell my books? Interviews, leveraging other people's audiences. And as soon as you start to keep track and you focus on, I want 2 interviews a week, and I'm going to start tracking my 2 interviews a week, you're going to find that your calendar starts to really fill up, and stages attract stages. Media attracts media. So the more often that you are on somebody else's stage or being interviewed, you set out to the universe and your followers and your fans, this is what I do now. So in order to create, right, this this exposure and monetize it on the back end, the very first thing we want to do is just start tracking it. Keep track of all the different media opportunities, because if you've been on a guest with them one time, you can be a guest with them a second time, maybe a third time next quarter or next year. We can also start to repurpose all of that content. So think about if this year, in the month of October, I have all of these different podcast interviews or media interviews. The next October, I can repost and reshare. So think about, what were you doing last year that we can repost and reshare that maybe our audience hasn't seen, or it's been a while, right, since they've heard it. And so we can start to repurpose. We want to give all of your content a fresh new life, right? We want to write a blog about it. We want to share it on our social media. We want to have the video. We want to have the audio. We want to have the text of it, right? We want to give all of our content multiple lives. But truly, the benefit of being a guest on somebody else's podcast is the KLT factor: know, like, and trust. And maybe you've heard of it, right? People do business with people they know, like, and trust. And how do you create in quick start, right? Elevate that know, like, and trust factor. How do we get there faster if they've never heard of you? Being an invited guest. Because the trust that people have on that, with that host or that platform or that show, they already trust that host, they trust that platform, they trust that show. And so as the invited guest, that trust transfers directly over to you, right? It's a transfer of trust. I trust them, and because they have you on their show, I trust you too. So we expedite the trust factor. Also, being a guest, you get to tell more of your story than just a 30-second elevator pitch, right? And you're being interviewed, you're being asked questions, which means you're being given permission to share your accolades, right? Your highlight reel. Because it can feel a little funny, right? When you come on, you're like, I'm all this and a bag of chips. But when somebody says, hey, Angel, you were a talk show host for 10 years. Tell me about that. Right? I get to talk about being a talk show host for 10 years. Angel, you've published 15 times. Tell me about that. Right? I'm a 15-time best-selling published author. I'm answering the question. I've been given permission to share my accolades and my highlights without feeling schwarmy, right? Or weird about it. Sometimes it feels weird to be boasting about our highlight reel. But when somebody asks you a question, tell me about the awards, tell me about your highlights, tell me about your success, like you're being polite, right? And sharing the answers. So being an invited guest, leveraging other people's audiences, 2 interviews a week, keeping track of them so you can go back and count and realize, look at that, I really have. And then you can also start to look, and when your business is kind of slowing down and you're like, well, gosh, I just don't have all the leads that I thought I would have, right? Then you kind of go back and you go, well, duh, because I didn't do anything that month, right? I wasn't leveraging other people's audiences. And so the faucet, right, kind of dried up a little bit. But that's truly what marketing is it's a faucet. You turn it up when you need more, you turn it and dial it back when you need less. And then you can even look back 30, 60, 90 days ago. How much exposure were you getting 30 days ago, 60 days, 90 days ago? Because the cadence, right, the life cycle sometimes of this exposure has to kind of filter in through the flow. It's not always instant. So truly the power, 2 interviews a week, keep track of them, leverage 100 audiences, two interviews a week, creating exposure in front of 100 audiences. Leverage that, get into a rhythm. It only takes 20 to 60 minutes to do an interview. It is so time effective, right? Really smart use of your time. And then out of those interviews, make sure that you're monetizing it on the back end by building your list. You can't typically sell on somebody else's platform, right? It's not an infomercial. You didn't pay for advertising to sell. And so you want to leverage other people's audiences in order to build your email list, to build your following, to build up your audience. So have a really super clear call to action that attracts people into your sales castle, right? Give them something for free in exchange for their email address, right? Something for you, something for me. I'm going to give you my free gift, my complimentary media starter kit. When you go to makeyourbiguimpact.com, you give me your email address, I give you my starter kit, right? So you want to have a really good call to action that allows you to build your list, right? So on other people's audiences, build your list with your CTA, OPA, BYL, CTA. Other people's audiences, build your list with a really clear call to action. I hope that was helpful. I hope that you start keeping track of all of your media opportunities. And I'm going to put the link to this Media Mastery Tracker in the comments below if you want to grab one of these for yourself. But truly, you can keep track on a spreadsheet, right? A notepad, anything that you normally use just to keep track of information, but put it all in one place so you can see it and celebrate your success. Stages attract stages, and the world needs your story. Remember that. There are hundreds of thousands of media opportunities looking for fresh new stories every day, and they are looking for you. So cheers to you all. We'll see you in the news.